Why are you so near but so far away? Why did you leave me and have me miserable every day? You listen to men that keep us apart. You doing this doesn't make me want to come back, but run far. My definition of love now is juggled. For the rest of my life, this is going to be a struggle. Going back is the only way to have you back. But why, when belief of that call is what I'll always lack? The lies I would hear, and them trying to get me back in the mindset of fear. I think I'll stay true to myself. I'm going to leave everything from my past and put it on the shelf. I'll always love you because you are my mother, but I thought you'd always love me better than any other. When the reality of it hit me in the face, I found myself in a confused and dark place. I want and need unconditional love from you, but now I know for sure that's impossible.
My name is Mitch. I'm 33 years old. I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and now I am shunned.
All right, Mitch. So, how did you get to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses in the first place? Were you born in?
Yes, I have pictures of me at my first birthday.
Mm-hmm.
That I see a one on the birthday cake. After that, it was over. So basically, yeah, I was born in.
You had that one glorious birthday, and then that was it.
Yeah, that I don't even remember. So
maybe something bad happened at the birthday, and then they decided they needed to make a change.
maybe. It looked like I was having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you know then what prompted your parents when you were 1 year old? 1 year old. Do you know what prompted them to start getting interested in the truth?
Well, my father has never been in the truth. And
Okay.
when my mom, well, I guess when someone came, knocked on her door, or it could have been a family member, I don't know the exact story, but I know she was vulnerable because my father wasn't around at the time. So I believe if he was around, like he told me that it would have never happened, but he wasn't. So they called her when she was at one of her weakest moments, basically.
Yeah, that's
And she was 30.
all right. Well, that's typical, weak moments. Were you the first child or?
I'm the third. I'm the baby out of three.
Okay.
I have two older brothers. One passed away 2 years ago, and
Sorry.
I have one that's 4 years older than me.
Okay. All
And
right.
neither one of them got baptized. Only me. Only me.
All right. Well, so then basically you're essentially bored in. I mean, you don't know anything different. How
Nope.
did growing up in it make you see the world around you?
Oh man. Okay. So basically, like in elementary school, it was like I knew I was different, and I didn't really fit in with everybody else because I really couldn't, do all the stuff they were doing. So that just automatically made me weird anyway in their eyes. And then at the Kingdom Hall, I didn't really fit in with nobody. So I stayed to myself, but towards like the middle school years, I realized that like I fit in like everywhere. So no matter where I went, whether it was gothic people or, the preppy people or people that's not too popular, wherever I sat, everybody liked me. So I was kind of like, I would try to crack jokes and stuff like that. So everybody just wanted to be around. I just like making people feel better, basically.
That's awesome. So then, being a young witness yourself, what was your family like at home? Were you all the ones who
Mm.
studied a lot and really were into it, or were you kind of on the fences?
I would say in between, if I could say that, because you know how most um, Kingdom Hall or it depends on what area of the world you are. but a lot
Mhm.
of them look down upon people that only have one parent, or, you know. So she wasn't really at the top, but once she started pioneering, I noticed that her status changed, so to speak. But before that, I mean, we went to field service a lot. My brother stopped going to the Kingdom Hall probably around 16, but I would continue to go out field service. Probably around 12, I became an unbaptized publisher. And I also started like doing the talks on Thursday nights and stuff like that, I believe. And we had Bible study once a week, and like my mom would have me do the watchtowers and underline them. I honestly, I would listen, but I really wasn't into it like that. You know what I mean? But I felt like, okay, I love God, so I have to do it, and it's all I knew. But she was the type of parent as a single mother, always tired. But she did whatever she had to do for Jehovah's Witnesses, though. It didn't matter how tired she was. So she was one of them, and her parents aren't. So basically, I'm second generation. She's first generation.
Mhm.
So that's kind of good on my part.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. You made a really good point there about how your mom, she was really tired, but she still had time and energy for whatever they wanted from her.
What? Definitely.
It was always like that in my family too. We're supposed to go
Oh
out and go
boy.
fishing or something, but my dad has an elders meeting, so here we go. No, we're
Mhm.
not going to go fishing because dad has an elders meeting. And he was
Yeah.
tired, and it wore him out. So, what did
Yeah.
that look like for you? Did you end up
Sorry.
missing your mom a lot?
It was, she always had me with her. Like I was the kid, the baby that was always with her. So wherever she was, that's where I was. And she would even like find people in the Kingdom Hall that she thought that I could be around, or friends she had that had kids, and we had nothing in common. But I'm sitting over their house making, bracelets, custom made bracelets and stuff. And like it was cool to a certain point, but like, I don't know. I'm just like, I don't. How come I'm not enjoying myself? Like, I felt like I was being forced to be people's friends. Like, I was fine the way I was doing things. Like, I had friends at school, but I could never talk to them only at school.
Mhm.
So,
So how
you
did you get to
know,
the point? How did you get to the point where you went from no friends at school to in middle school, kind of realizing that you fit in with everybody? Was that just natural, or did something change?
I, no, I think it was natural, and I'm glad for that. That I knew that was part of me. I was still young enough to still have my own mind before I felt like they took over it, because I feel like they did take over my mind up till even a couple years ago, and I've been out for 15 years plus, and they still had a hold on my mind. So at that time, I still had my own mind, and I reached out there to people, and I just always had it in my heart to make people laugh. So I always wanted to be around people. But it was so weird because when I was in the house, I was more of an introvert, and I isolated myself a lot. And my mom pretty much made me like that. Like it was, I'm always in my room, so I always had a diary or where I would draw or write poetry. I'm a very creative person, so I knew that about myself because I was isolated. So I can't say it was all bad because I found that out about myself early, but I can express myself in a different way now, in a more happier way than the more depressive way that I was expressing myself before when I was younger. And I didn't realize that I had mental issues. Like I had certain aunts and stuff who would ask me like, why are you so sad all the time? I'm like, am I? Like I didn't even realize it, but and my parents also have their own issues as far as their mental status. So, I didn't realize till I was 19 that when I took it upon myself when I realized something didn't feel right and found out that I was bipolar. And it's so crazy because, yeah, some of it might be hereditary, but a lot of it I know of my mental came from that so-called religion.
Yeah, well, I mean, what they say about a lot of mental illnesses or disorders sometimes is they can be genetic, and then they can be switched on by circumstances, or environmental pressures
Yeah.
at times, and that's really tough.
Yeah.
So with your mom, I don't know, you didn't say what age you were when your mom became a pioneer, but you talked about being dragged along with her. Did you get dragged along with her out
Yeah.
in service? Did you become a pioneer too, essentially?
I mean, I felt like I didn't get the hours put down though, really.
Yeah.
But I was probably about 15, 16 when she became a pioneer. So at that time, I kind of was already had in my mind I was almost ready to kind of get out of there. I just didn't know how. So
So you knew then in your mid-teens that you wanted to bounce. You were kind of done with it.
yeah, I could feel it because I mean I knew since I was 8 that I liked females. I just didn't know. I just shrugged it off. And I remember even in middle school, certain friends, I felt towards them differently. So I already knew that they didn't approve of that. So I already had in my mind that, hey, I can't not be me. I tried a couple times. I even had a child, over that, trying to be something I wasn't or please my mother. So, I mean, I knew from an early age that I was different. So, what initially had me get baptized is kind of sad is that I was around 12 years old. I had stole $20 from my great aunt. And I went into a corner store and brought a little baby stuffed animal monkey with a pacifier and some candy. And I had the rest of the change in my pocket. I'm like, I don't know why I didn't think I was going to get caught. But when I was asked, did I take it? I said, yeah. I felt bad. My mom had me write, I will not steal like 1,000 times. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. And then I felt so bad. I disappointed her. Only thing I could think to do to make her feel better is to get baptized.
Wow.
And when I told her that, like her whole attitude changed and she wasn't even mad that I stole anymore.
Doesn't it just show there's a lot of magic around baptism. You have people sometimes who have done something wrong and they think, well, or maybe they're being abused or something awful, and they think that they're going to get baptized and that it's going to make everything right. And it seems like a
Everything
lot
right.
of
Yeah,
people
I thought it
kind
was
of do
going to
that.
fix everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And it's so
Well, let me
sad
ask.
because, like, good.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I lost it.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was just going to ask. You talked about how you kind of knew you were different and some of your mental struggles that you talked about that you find out later. Did you think it was going to help some of that as well?
Did I think what was?
The baptism. Did you think that if you baptized
Oh,
yourself, like Jehovah was going to make things better in some way?
well, when I got baptized, I was 14, and at that time, I didn't know that my mom wouldn't even take me to see if I had a problem. I just had people asking me why did I look so sad or whatever. I was 19 when I found out I was bipolar. When I got
Gotcha.
baptized at 14, uh, I didn't know any of that. I didn't know what's going on. I just thought things were going to be better. My mom was going to be proud of me again, and that's all I was worried about. And I'm
And
like, that's all I knew. So I felt like that was supposed to be my next step.
all right, so then you were also, you mentioned earlier that you liked girls, and
Mm-hmm.
for people who don't, you and I have spoken before, who don't know, why would that be an issue for you to like girls?
Okay. All right. So the reason why that would be an issue is because I was born a female at birth. That's what the gender the doctors gave me. So I knew I liked females, and that you would be considered a lesbian if it's two females that are together. But as I got out of the religion, got to learn myself and understand who I was, um, I knew that I was transgender, which is basically um, female born at birth, but I feel inside and I know inside that I'm a man. So basically, I'm going through a process that's called FTM, female to male transition. And right at the moment, so now I'm in a relationship, me and my wife, we would be considered, a heterosexual couple because I would be considered a man now. So that would not make me or us in a lesbian relationship anymore.
Right.
So that's
Did you
why.
think? Yeah. Did you think that back then, feeling like you were a lesbian, did you feel like getting baptized would impact that in any way? Did you think, was that even on your mind?
No, because it just felt so natural to me. And like I knew that they looked at it as wrong, but that wasn't even part of the reason why I got baptized. I didn't think it was gonna change me. I had no desire of being with a man to be with one. So I don't know where I was going with that. I knew that in my heart, I felt like, okay, I love God. This is all I know, and this is what I want to do. And the main focus was just to make her proud,
Okay.
honestly, because she was by herself, always sad. So I just wanted to make my mom happy. And it's so crazy because I knew early, and I thought I could basically probably live a double life. And that's sad. And that carried on with me through my teenage and adult life until recently. That's what I did. I just lived a double life, and it was just normal. And people would ask me like, "What's wrong with you?" or "Why?" And I'm just like, "What? This is what I'm used to." Like, like it's nothing different. But
Yeah, and when you think about that, that's really suppression of self. The
mm-hmm.
double life is the one that's typically more authentic, that we're having to suppress to keep up appearances in other areas, like as a witness.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of things, a lot of authenticity to explore, in your life as time has
Yeah.
gone by, which is a beautiful thing that you
Yeah.
get to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did things change after you got baptized? Did anything change for you? Was your mom proud of you?
After I got baptized, yeah, she was very proud of me. She had my grandmother come and everything. And they didn't really make a big deal about it besides having a couple family members come. And because I don't remember us even going out to dinner or anything, but I just knew that the way she looked and like the confident, it looked like she had more confidence in everything when the next meeting we had, I'm like, I thought I'm just the one that got baptized. Yeah, she was walking around proud, like she did something.
Yeah. Well, it's a big moment. It means, for a lot of parents, they feel like they brought their kids up right, or, whatever. And people
Yeah.
look at you different in the Kingdom Hall then.
Yeah, but other than that, I still kept doing whatever I wanted to do. I had a cousin that was kind of like a best friend. I would tell my mom, go over her house, and we end up at a school dance. And I did that probably twice or three times, and enjoyed it. And then when I started working, since my mom, that's probably the only thing she gave me that was good was my work ethic. I always kept at least two jobs. I would go to parties after work or tell I'm working and I'm not working, just living a double life. And it took, and like when I turned 18, when I had my first girlfriend, like real girlfriend, and I just was like, I'm done with this. Like after graduation, I'm like, I'm ready to go. My birthday is June 14th. I graduated June 12th. So on my 2 days after my graduation, on my birthday, I left. Like my mom came home, and I'm sure she just seen my room pretty much empty.
So you didn't tell her, you just took off?
I just took off. I didn't know what else to do. I knew something was going to change with us, but I didn't know it was going to be as traumatic as what I've experienced. But I was ready to go.
So, did you just not tell her because you didn't want to have the conversation? Like, what was it?
I didn't want to see her upset. I didn't want to see her cry. That was the main thing. It wasn't because I wasn't sure. I was sure. I was ready to go. I just didn't want to hurt her
Yeah,
because I love
you
her,
knew
you
she
know?
wouldn't accept it. She wouldn't be happy.
Yeah,
Right.
she would have made it really difficult.
So where did you go? Where did you go
Um,
when you left?
my brother that passed away, I moved in with him and his wife, and my nieces and nephews for a little bit. They were one of the first ones I told that I like females when I was like 16. So I was real comfortable with them. And like, I don't know, I stayed there for like a year, and then I moved in with an aunt, a cousin. And I stayed there for like a year. And it's crazy because I met an ex Jehovah's Witness through one of my friends. She said, "Oh, my mom used to be one." And me and her mom talked, and she ended up letting me move in. I just helped her pay a couple bills. So, like, I had different people that were letting me stay. And there's only a few times I actually was homeless and was living in my car. But I had a lot of different people like help me out throughout the years of me struggling.
So at what point did your mom, so you take off at 18 and you said that then you got your first girlfriend. When did your mom find out and how did that go? Like, what's the witness element to this when you you just take off and go to be yourself, which sounds great, but we all
Yeah.
know that as a witness, that's not just all there is to it.
All right. So probably about a month went by. I was working at McDonald's. I was going to the club. I was partying, parked in front of the job to take a nap and I had my uniform on because I was like, I just, take a nap real quick, go to work. And she pulls up. Somebody calls her. She pulls up and I look up at her and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What? I haven't seen you in forever. Like, what do you mean what I'm doing? I'm going to go to work." She's like, "Why are you sleeping in your car?" I'm like, "Look, I don't got time for this. So she's like, "Well, the elders want to talk to you." I'm like, "What?" So I was like, all right. I'll come to your house in a couple of days. So I came to her house and she told me, if I could drive there or I could go with her. And I told her, no, I'll drive there. So when they're done talking to me, I could just jet. So they basically took me downstairs, asked me a couple questions, told me, do I know that me and my mom's relationship was going to change, and the story about one of the elders had a story of their cousin or something that, oh yeah, he has tattoos and stuff, and he drops letters in his mom mail's box, and they don't talk, and I'm like, okay, and he's like, well, you can get this fellowship after we talk. Depends on what you want. We'll see if you'll do that'll happen, or you can disassociate yourself. Because after they asked me a couple of questions, they knew I didn't want to be there no more. He was like, "Are you sorry for what you did?" I was like, "It depends on what you mean." I was like, "I'm not sorry for who I am, you know." So when they asked me how I felt about me and my mom's relationship, I said that's gonna be sad, but I would hope she wouldn't choose anything over her own kid. But they had me write some letter and sign it, and I did it all fast. And I remember my mom looking at me like, "Wow, she's really doing it, like really fast." And I'm referring myself as she because at the moment that's who I was. So
So
yeah,
they had you disassociate. That did they just like write a disassociation letter, basically?
yeah, that's basically what I did. While I was sitting there, I wrote a disassociating letter and signed it because I chose to do that than rather get this fellowship. Because I asked them, "What's the difference?" They basically told me that if I was this fellowship, me and my mom would have no type of relationship, and if I disassociated myself, we couldn't speak about spiritual things, but we could still have a relationship. But throughout the years, it all changed. That did not happen. She doesn't even text me about anything. And now that somebody died, and if somebody dies, especially like I told my brother, if my grandmother dies, let my mom be the last person to hit me up because I don't want to hear it from her. That's the only time she calls when something bad happens. she has my son right now, and he has behavioral and mental issues. And I barely get to speak to him. She'll tell me that she'll tell him to call me and stuff, and he won't call. And I don't know if I believe that she's even saying anything to him, but she basically brainwashed him already, and he looks at me like the bad guy. And I don't even know. I'm sure she knows by now, but I don't think he knows that I'm transitioning. But he already looks at me like the devil because he thinks I'm gay. So she already fed that to him, and I noticed he started acting different around me and my wife once I got married and everything. And I was trying to figure out why. And when I seen the video that they have out for the kids at the Kingdom Hall for gay people, I'm like, what? So my son seen this like a couple years ago, and that's when he started acting different. Like it all started clicking. And when I started looking at everything and looking at the YouTube videos, that happened like when I turned 30. I'm 33 now. When I turned 30, I remember somebody asking me at work, they were like, yeah, Charles Taze Russell and something, the founders. I said, what? I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, huh? And it was like, because I talked about my mom's stuff like every day because it was bothering me so much. So they're like, you don't know about basically the foundation of what you knew your whole life that you're learning. I'm like, obviously not. You know more than me. So after that, I started looking up stuff, and I was binging like John Cedar. I was looking at Lloyd Evans, so many. There's so many. I can't even think of them right now. But I just started like opening my eyes, and I'm like, I started getting angry. I was sad. I was so mad. Like I'm like they were lying to me. Like it hurt.
Yeah, it's like you've been pranked your whole life.
What? And I'm like, I'm going through all this stuff with my mom because of this. And I'm like, if it took me 15 years to wake up, who am I to even think that my mom's going to wake up any time this lifetime?
So let's talk about some of this. So you just covered a long period of time there. So let me try to cut that up a little bit. So you disassociate, and I'll tell you, I mean, I disassociated. Disassociation carries pretty much the same penalty as disfellowship. And so I don't know what they were telling you other than that. I mean, they say even things like this about disfellowshipping, that somehow like you just can't have spiritual contact or discussion.
Yeah.
But that's not true. We all know that's not true.
Yeah, that's not true.
In fact, I guess by the time this comes out, I've got an episode I'm doing just about disfellowshipping and about how Watchtower weasels their way. They use weasel words. They're not upfront about their policies when they're questioned on it. They skirt the subject.
Yep.
So that's what they did to you when they had you sign that disassociation letter. So
yeah,
you leave. You're gonna. You end up losing your mom. Did you feel any kind of loss as far as the religion goes? Because it sounds like you still kind of believed it for a long time. So did you feel shame?
I was basically physically out mentally, and me believing in it still it really ruined a lot of my relationships I was in, and everything. Like I came out of there naive. I made the wrong friends because I didn't know how to make friends. It was hard for me to love. And honestly, until recently when I'm letting my mom go, I wasn't even able to love myself. So I was like, how can I love my wife or anybody I was with before that but her? Because I'm with her now, how could I love her when I couldn't even love myself because of how I was feeling? And I felt like I was wrong the whole time. I felt like I was the worst person in the world, but I was determined to be myself.
So let me ask you, very good realizations there that, you do need to learn to love yourself, because we weren't taught how. We were taught to love Jehovah or the organization, but not ourselves. So when it came to these, you said you struggled in relationships. What did some of that look like? Because I'm sure there's other people out there who might have some of those same hallmarks in their relationship.
I was always like defensive with my girlfriend. We were always arguing about, how my mom was treating me or doing things, and I would defend my mom to the fullest. And I didn't realize how recently, like, I'm like, if all these people are saying the same shit and they don't know each other from a can of paint, something's gotta be true. And every like year, my mom's getting worse. Like things were changing. I'm like, I wouldn't even want to go in there now. But like, I had moved to Texas for a couple of years, and when I was out there, I could end up probably locked up. Just how angry I was. Like I was just full of anger, and I had no idea why. And like, my ex would say, "It's your mom's fault." I'm like, what is she talking about? And until I met my wife now that is upfront with me, my best friend, like she tried to tell me, and I was not listening to her. We got to the point we were probably going to get a divorce. And like, I'm looking at it all now, like, damn, she was telling me some real crap, like some stuff. It was just a hard pill to swallow. And now I see it, it like hurts so much. Like when my brother died, my mom didn't even when she gave me a hug, it wasn't even genuine. I didn't feel it. She was just, I knew you and your brother were close. You and Michael were close. That's it. That's all I got. And when I got married, my niece died. 2 years later, my sister-in-law died. This is all the same family, my brother's kids and stuff. And then my brother died, and then my other niece died. So I had 4 people out of the 6 people I moved in with when I first left the Jehovah's Witnesses that were basically my lifeline. I lost all of them in the past 5 years. And that's a lot. And my mom hasn't been there for me, and I've been trying to be there for her. She hasn't been there for me for nothing. But just me growing up in that religion and leaving, it just affected me so much in my life now. And I just wish I knew what I knew now earlier, because all that anger and frustration I went through and not being able to stay in relationships because of that, I think it wouldn't have happened. But
So, let me ask you. So let's talk about the anger real quick. Was that directed when you were angry? Did you feel angry at other people, or did you have a lot of internal like rage towards yourself?
both.
Oh,
And mainly, I had that internal anger with myself, because I felt like it was always just like I was always concerned about my mom's happiness, And we had a conversation when I moved to Texas. She said it was certain things that would trigger my anger. I said, if you were sick and you didn't have anybody, nobody from the Kingdom Hall to take care of you, would you move in with me and my girlfriend so I could take care of you? Because, I've been in the medical field like a lot of my life, just taking care of people with special needs and stuff like that. So I could help take care of her, kind of like a nurse's aide type thing. And she said, no, I'm going to move in with you. I'm like, what? Like, stuff like that would hurt me. Like, why? I'm your daughter.
I think you're making an important point there. It's almost like Stockholm syndrome, where people identify with their captors when they're kidnapped at some point. We kind of idealize our witness family a lot of times because these are important relationships to us, and we, who doesn't want a loving, caring mom who sees you, who validates you, who wants to be with you? We all want that. And a lot of times what we end up doing is we idealize that person, and we kind of project that as who they really are when it's not.
Yeah.
And it causes us a lot of pain because we keep going back to that dry well trying to get water.
Yep.
There's nothing there for us.
Yeah, she used to come get my son a lot, and I had a job, and some older woman was like, "Let me speak to you, ma'am." And my mom came to her. She was like, "I want you to know that your child is amazing, and I'm so grateful that I had a chance to meet her and work with her." And like the expression she gave her, like, oh, like she didn't say thank you or nothing. She just like, "Where's Michaela?" That's my son's name. I was like, "What?" Like, everything I was doing, I was just trying to make her proud. Like my 2 jobs and stuff like that. I just found myself always, even though I was living my life, I always was worried about making her proud.
Yeah. And you can't, because
No.
he has a very narrow definition. She's not seeing you. she's only seeing, are you reflecting her? Are you reflecting her and what she cares about?
Yeah.
And that's just that happens to so many of us.
Yeah.
You know, our families, that's where this, again, it's not about love, unconditional love and conditional love. It's about love and control. And so many of these people are about control. And if they can't control us, and if they can't make us look like them, act like them, be like
That's
them,
her.
no point. They don't care.
What is it? Narcissist? She's
Yep, that's narcissism.
that's my mom.
Yeah. A narcissist typically has a hole in them, an emotional void, and they try to fill it in a very bad way by putting other people down. And they're so hurt, all they can see is themselves. They can't see anybody outside themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked to her so many times. I just found out that I had PTSD. And that's what my doctor said. And when I told her that, you know, where I got it from and stuff, she didn't even answer. Like, she just ignored text messages. And I'm like, I wonder how so many messages I sent her, even though I stopped doing that, I was like, I wonder if she read any of them.
Even if she did, even if she read the words, that doesn't mean she got any of it. If she's really narcissistic, you know, she may have read the words, but she can't see past her own. I mean, honestly, a narcissist is pretty blind. They're blind to other people around them. And it's because of their own pain. So, I mean, you can kind of have some measure of compassion for them based on that, but that doesn't mean you want them in your life because they're toxic and they will just hurt you over and over again.
Yeah, my girlfriend passed away when I was 19. All I got from my mom was a track, and I remember it was like from 19. It don't matter. It was like a little girl bent down at a gravesite or something. I'm not sure it was a track. And then she gave me a watchtower about, you know, paradise and me being able to see her again and all this stuff. And that's all I got from my mom. And a letter that my brother, I found out that somebody in the neighborhood, one of my friends, my brother took the letter and ripped it up and put it in their trash can. They told me 3 years later that your mom wrote your letter that your brother said it disgusted him and he would never want you to read it. And he ripped it up and asked me to throw it in my trash and not to tell you, but it's been 3 years and the trash is gone. So she told me, and like, I still never told my brother that I know he did that, and he's the one that's still alive. But I thank him for that because I didn't need that.
Sounds like it would have been a very hurtful thing for you in a very vulnerable time.
Yeah.
So then another part of what you said. So, you know, somewhere in here too, you start transitioning, right? Somewhere, I guess, when you're 20s or something?
No, right now I'm 33. Okay. And I just started, I started my counseling with my transgender therapist a little bit over a year ago.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yeah, it's fresh.
Yeah.
Definitely
all right.
new for me.
All right. So what was being able to get outside of a cult and being able to be yourself is there's a great feeling in that freedom. Being able to discover even more about who you are. You know, how does that feel? Is that kind of reminiscent of that freedom and that authenticity?
If it's, I don't know, it feels amazing to me because before, I don't think I allowed to open myself up or anything because of what I was taught. And I knew since I was 16, putting on my hat backwards, doing video recordings, I knew how I felt. And I'm like, I don't like that. I want to look like that. And I'm like, why can't I? You know? And now it's just like, I don't know. I feel like I'm starting a whole new fresh life and nothing can stop me. And I don't think if I never left, I would have never realized that about myself. I wouldn't have opened my mind up enough. And I'm not sure if I'm answering your question right, but.
No, that's okay. No, I think that's a good point. It's another new life for you. It's, I think when we leave an organization like the Witnesses, it's kind of like life 2.0. You get another shot, and it's like you're getting 3.0 kind of. You're getting another new shot. Like that's And that, that should be celebrated for anyone to get to. You only have one life that we can prove.
Yeah.
You might as well live it to the fullest, as who you are, and be loved and love yourself for that. And that's awesome.
Yeah, I feel more complete, and it's so crazy. I'm like, I never knew. Always felt like something was missing, and like even when I got married, I'm like, I love her. I know I'm good. We have her family, but it was me that I still needed to work on.
Mm-hmm. So now you mentioned also your kids,
Mm-hmm.
and you talked a little bit about how your mom has one of your kids.
Yes.
So kind of
He's the one that I gave birth to.
Okay. So how did she end up taking your child, or do you want to get into a little bit just what was that, what was happening around that time, and how now he identifies more with her and is with her, and the whole witness thing that comes along with it.
So basically, since he was little, he was born premature. So the person I was with had helped me for a little bit, but after we broke up, my mom was basically helping me since he was like one, on and off, because he started with behavioral issues like being suspended from daycare, pre-K, getting kicked off the bus like early. So it was a lot for me, and I was also dealing with my own mental issues. So it was hard for me to be able to try to figure out what's going on with me, and also deal with him, and also deal with my mom shunning me in between that. So basically, with her shunning me, it made helping my son, me and her help my son, more difficult, and it's been like that since he was little. And that's basically where all the issues started. I felt like, oh, I'm not going to the hall, so I'll just let him go and make her feel better. And not realizing that the whole time I'm allowing her to brainwash him and something I don't believe, but I didn't know I didn't believe it till like not too long ago. I slowly throughout the years was letting stuff go of the beliefs, but not all of it. And by the time I got married, it's like, okay, I'm getting older, I'm getting more mature, I'm realizing certain things. And then I felt like everybody was going against my wife. Oh, since you've been with her, you don't want, Mikkel going to the Kingdom Hall with your mom and stuff. I'm like, what? It don't have nothing to do with her. It has to do with me getting older and maturing and realizing certain things. So, me and my wife had certain conversations about, stuff and things that were happening in front of my face, but I wasn't willing to realize it until I was ready. She couldn't do nothing to sway me, but like I said before, as soon as I'm like, that one thing hit, which I couldn't even remember what it was. I think something she did, we were trying to get a house to be able to have my son to be able to have his own space, for him to be safe and everything by himself, because he's been in and out the mental hospitals. So, and being violent or hurting himself. So that's when it came to play of him not being able to be in my house because he could hurt the kids or anything, while we're asleep. So that's when my mom offered to keep him, to have him for a little bit for us. But that really turned around on us when we were trying to get things together for him. It was different because I think she found out I was going to church and all this other stuff, and she was hearing stuff, and she didn't want him around it. But I'm like, that's not your kid. But this whole time, she still acts like he's hers. And when I gave birth to him, she's the one that came to the hospital, and I'm thinking she was there being, a loving mother, but she came with a no blood card that I signed like forever ago, telling me, hey, well, like my blood pressure rising, my son's heartbeat dropping, and she came to me with a Jehovah's Witness no blood card and asked me to sign a piece of paper saying if something happens to me that I wouldn't take blood, and I actually signed it. And I feel like I feel sick to my stomach to even realize. And I told my wife I want to go to the hospitals, like in Baltimore and stuff like that, where I had them, and take Jehovah's Witnesses off, because I didn't do that. So what if something happens and I get rushed there and they still have that under my name? I feel like I was being given as a sacrifice for them.
Wow, that's yeah, definitely. I would take care of any potential hangover from that, as far as legally.
Yeah.
But also, once again, it's Jehovah's Witnesses exploiting a person who's in a vulnerable state
Yep.
to get them to do what they want you to do. So, I hope you can see the power dynamics there and work on forgiving yourself, because you were in such a bad position there, and you've got your mom's got this hold on you, the religion still got this hold on you. You probably believed you were doing the right thing at the time.
Yeah, I was 21.
We all did.
Yeah.
We all did so many things as Jehovah's Witnesses, thinking we were doing the right thing, and it doesn't benefit us to beat ourselves up for that.
Yeah.
Once we know better, we do better, and that's really all you can ask. And people wake up when they wake up. You can't, like you said, even your wife couldn't wake you up. You had to be ready, and you are, and now you're doing better. So, so that's good. That's a good thing. But I'm sorry, because I understand the feelings that must surround that, because it wouldn't feel good to sign that, and it's also just not cool that someone brought you that in that moment to do.
Yeah.
It's so manipulative.
Yeah. Me and my son could have died.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's so sad because I didn't realize how wrong it was until recently.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's cutting up a little bit.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I saw the video kind of getting shaky for a minute. Sometimes there's issues with Zoom, but so how old is your son now, who lives with your mom?
He's 12.
12. And so he's been around the witnesses then for 12 years, correct? Basically.
Yeah, on and off.
And is he a believer? Does he believe everything that they, and does he want to be a part of that?
Yeah, he wants to dress up. He loves dressing up, and he likes getting in the suit, and he wants to, go out and fill service and talk to people. And I'm just to the point now that, like, I feel so bad for him, because I know my son, since he was little, he's said certain things like, I'm a girl, or I like boys, or like when he went to the mental hospital, they got in trouble for stuff like that, for touching and things. So I'm like, I don't want to get to the point that he's in the same situation as I was, and she ends up shunning him because he wants to be himself. And I wouldn't force anything on a kid that young. But just like anytime he brought it up, I wouldn't dwell on it or say anything, but he keeps doing it and bringing it up. So I'm like, he could end up liking the same, sex. And then what? She's just going to leave him like she left me.
That's really sad.
Basically, and the last straw was when I said, Mikkel, you can stay here or go with my mom. I said, I just want you to know that she believes something, I believe something different. I said, just because she's teaching you, that doesn't mean that it is right, And I was like, why do you want to, live with my mom and not me? He said, because the world's about to end and I don't want to die in Armageddon. So I said, so what makes you think that if you stay with me, that you would die in Armageddon? And he just shrugged his shoulders. He didn't know, but I think he knew what they were teaching him, but he didn't want to hurt my feelings.
Yeah. And
so basically, I knew
out
that
of the
he
mouth
was
of
doing
babes, as they would say, Yeah. He knows in the end, and I think it's what
That's
most Jehovah's
crazy.
Witnesses know.
I'm like, what?
Being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, yeah, being one of Jehovah's Witnesses is kind of about saving your own ass. It's the end is coming, and I don't want to die, so I'm going to do this thing.
Yeah.
It's not about oftentimes some big love for Jehovah or whatever. They use fear
And
to
that's exactly what he
manipulate
said.
people, and I'm so it's so sad to see that your son is caught up in them. Yeah, yeah. So
I know. And it's so sad that I didn't
it's
realize
just really
that's what was
heartbreaking to
happening.
think that your
And
son could end
so
up
many
in the
people
same.
said that your mom's using your son to get to you. I know.
Mm.
I know.
Yeah, that could absolutely be
But
as well.
he's to the
It's
point now that he's being so
so let me
violent.
ask. So let me ask you. Let me ask you for a word of advice. Right. Um, Let me ask you. I'm sorry, the video is totally out of sync. But let me ask you for a word of advice for. So
Yeah.
if you could say something to another parent out there right now who has kids and their parents are coming and getting their kids and taking them to the meetings or exposing them to witness beliefs and literature and such. A lot of times it's easy to think it's kind of innocent, but from your example, what do you think about that?
It's kind of heartbreaking to say this, but I would suggest anybody in a situation like that to please think very hard about it. Even if you want them around your kids, I feel like you should be there and hearing what they're saying to them and showing to them. You may feel like, okay, I'm not going, so I'll let them go. There's no harm, but it's a lot of harm. Even if you feel like you're living your life fine, in your eyes, they'll find things to nitpick and make it seem like you're not in the right path. And by the way they word things and manipulate as your kids get older, they start to put things together. And, at the end of the day, they're going to end up choosing a side and it just doesn't ever end up well. That's what I've
No.
noticed. And not even just with my situation. I've seen so many stories of people that their kids are just totally detached from them because of their grandparents and what they fed them.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
I remember watching Leah Remini. She has a show about Scientology, and I remember learning how Scientology, when a person goes into the Sea Org, their children are pretty much parented by Scientology, and their parents are separated from them and go off to do whatever they do for the group. In Jehovah's Witnesses, although the parents still have their kids, even inside the organization, and they're not separated from them, the parents are told how to parent. The parents are mimicking what the organization is telling them to do, and they're brainwashing their kids. It's like they were brainwashed.
Listen, I was one of the kids that was always in the bathroom. If you're Jehovah's Witness kids, you know what the bathroom was in the 90s, growing up in the 90s. So I was one of them, the bathroom kid, and then we were one of the kids that got pinched by her mom in the seat, like, be quiet. One of them, like, I'm like, they're telling them to beat their kids and stuff. Like, that's not okay.
Yeah, you're being raised by Watchtower. You're not being raised by your parents.
Nope.
And it's really sad because it does. It's what you said. It kind of, people detach from people in ways when they're subjected to that. And it's just, like you said, it often doesn't end well. And
no. I thought I was doing a good thing. But
I'm
it
really
ended up
sorry.
really bad. I know it's okay, Michael. It's nothing that anybody can really do about it now. And then, like, at the end of the day, it's like I try to talk to him so many times, and he's not trying to listen to none of it. It's just like whatever she says goes.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
absolutely.
Because he's scared, though. He told me that, and that came out of nowhere. I'm like, you never spoken like that before.
Yep. Fear rules most everything inside of Jehovah's Witnesses. Fear is the motivation for most things. Now that you're out now, you talked about how recently you woke up. What were some of the things that helped you to wake up? What were some of I know you talked about like Lloyd's channel or my channel or whatever, but what are some of the specific hangups you had or some of the things that really helped open your eyes? Was it the history or like you mentioned or something else?
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that sticks out to me the most right now that I can remember that made me real sick was them saying I think survived till 1975 or something like that. It was when they said that the world was going to end. People weren't having kids. They weren't going to school. They were selling their houses. And then the Beth Shireen, that one, what? Oh, that made me mad too. I'm like, they really believed that? And he was just living life. And I'm like, this is crazy. And then when I seen the gravesite, I think it was Charles Taze Russell's, and he has the pyramid on top, that gave me a headache. I was like, man. And just to know how the beard, just everything, it was just one thing after another after that. And I couldn't help watching it.
Yeah, it's interesting to look back at the history and to realize how oblivious we were. We didn't know the history of the thing that we were involved in. And it's so messed up.
And they're deceiving. They're so deceiving the whole time. And that was the first initial thing. But as for me to speak now, to say what the worst thing for me is the two witness rule. Because at the end of the day, you're still taking my child there. Even if you wasn't, there's other kids that are there. And I do not agree with that. So who in their right mind is going to say, hey, I'm going to go touch this kid and make sure I have somebody else there with me too? Come on.
Yeah.
And then the way they lied on the stand, and it's just so sad.
Yeah, and in the end, why are they dealing with it anyway? Just take it to the police. Why in the world are Jehovah's Witnesses handling that? It's out of their league.
Why? For what reason? Yeah. To cover it up. I can't wait till that ends. Like, that's a whole nother topic, but that right there, I have learned that later in my journey of, learning the history and everything else. And that really just threw me off balance a lot.
How would you say that, I know you've woken up a lot and you've got quite a journey here in your life. How would you say that your past life, does it still affect you? And in what ways, other than obviously with your son, but how is that, does it impact you, mentally, emotionally? What do you kind of struggle with around that, if there is anything?
I think it's affecting my life a lot right now. I think it's a little better now that my eyes are opening up, but I still struggle with like being defensive all the time. And what my wife's talking, trust issues. Yeah, you know more than anybody, right?
She's gonna fill in the blanks.
I told her to come in here, but I don't know. I think it's helping me more ways than hurting me now. Sure. Before I know it's hurting me a lot, but my eyes are opening up. I'm not even angry at my mom anymore. I'm looking at it as she's still brainwashed. She's thinking she's doing what she thinks is right, and she loves me in her own weird way, but it's unconditional. And I mean, it's conditional. It's not unconditional. My like I told my grandmother, you gave me unconditional love since I was born. My mother didn't, and I appreciate that, and I thanked her for that, because some people don't have that. They didn't have that growing up. At least I had my grandmother, as a child.
Yeah.
But it's affected me a lot, to the fact that it was kind of making it easier for me to just leave people or run, and that's not good. And I've only learned that in the last couple of years, that it was not helping me running.
Right. And so let me just say, as someone who coaches people who are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses and other groups professionally, the defensiveness, trust issues, all these things that you're mentioning, completely normal for people who leave these groups. One of the things that we did as Jehovah's Witnesses was we had quite an ego. Our ego was our over-identification with a label. So for us, our label was Jehovah's Witnesses. And so the reason that you can't question anything about the beliefs of Jehovah's Witnesses to one of Jehovah's Witnesses is because they're so attached to it all that when you question a doctrine, they feel like you're attacking them personally.
Yep.
They're completely invested in it. And, so we've been conditioned our whole life to pick labels and identify really strongly with those. And instead of seeing them as part of us or something that is something we're interested in, we see them as like that's us. Yeah. And so then if anything is questioned about that, we get defensive because it feels like you're attacking us.
Yeah.
So this is all very normal reactions to being in an abnormal situation.
Yeah.
And how are we going to trust anybody? We were told the heart is treacherous, who can know it? So don't trust yourself, and don't trust all those evil worldly people out there. So, how are you going to trust people? You have to start all over. You have to break all that down.
Yeah.
So
that sucks, but it is what it is.
It comes from that, but it doesn't have to stay that way. You can change these things, but they take time, and and you've got to learn all the tactics that were used against you and see the patterns. And it's just a shame that we had to go through that in the first place.
I know, and it's so sad because some people don't have like a support system or somebody that can, like, once they are waking up, show them certain things. Like, look, this is why you are acting like this, or do you notice this now, or stop you when you start to like act. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're right, thank you. But everybody doesn't have that. I'm just so happy that I have my wife.
Yeah. It helps to have somebody to point those things out, and I'm glad that over time you've been able to hear those things more and more. It takes time. It's not easy, coming from where we came from. What is something, so if you had to pick something that you've learned since leaving that has really made an impact in your life, a positive impact, have you learned any good lessons?
I learned how to choose friends more wisely. Not to trust them. I trusted everybody when I first left. It was sad. I figured out who I truly am, so that was mainly what it was. Like, it's kind of like I had to let my mom go, honestly. Like, I had a mental breakdown that I was getting ready to be in a psych ward because I was crying so hard and so upset that I felt like she deceived me. And like, how can somebody that gave birth to me do this to me? I just, like, I didn't want to live anymore. And then, like, I'm like, hold on. I had to snap out of that, And once I started slowly letting her go, like, I'm learning that to love myself. And I didn't love myself when I was a Jehovah's Witness. I just loved what I had to do or what I was told to love. So I learned the true meaning of what love is after leaving. and I'm grateful for that.
That's one of the more beautiful lessons you can learn. It'll impact everything in your life. So now that Mitch loves Mitch, what does Mitch want out of life? What do you have anything that you enjoy in your life today? You know, just things that you really enjoy, or things that you want to do in the future.
There's a lot of things I want to do. I still want to explore, even though there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. But as far as like more of my interests, or now that I'm more open up to things and I'm not writing about so much stuff that I was told to stay away from. I'm not, going to like dangerous things or drugs or anything. I'm just speaking of other normal stuff that they say you can't do. Like, I just want to do all of it. That's all. I just want to live my life, be happy, and, love others without worrying about what they believe in, or, all of that. I just want to love people for being a person.
Yeah. What a tiny, tiny, sad love when you can only love people who act just like you. Love is so much more expansive than that, when you can love people who have differences and embrace that. That's a beautiful thing in life. So I hope you get to explore that more and more, and as you
appreciate that,
keep growing. Any parting words of wisdom? Anything that you'd like to say, or anything we didn't get to talk about?
I guess all I can say is, through the journey of life, I feel like there's going to be a lot of ups and downs for people, if they decide to leave or after they leave. But just keep, pushing. Don't ever think that you're not worth it. Always believe in yourself, and just see what's out there. And the more you learn about yourself, the more you'll realize that you weren't able to do that in that organization. So just find out who you truly are if you don't know who you are, because that's the most important thing, because that'll open up, other things that are going to be amazing in life just with that start.